Good afternoon. I'd like to request an interim remedy on behalf of my client, Jason George. In May of 2006, my client, Jason George, suffered from an accident, a car accident, which rendered him 55% loss of function in his body, and this makes him considered disabled. This is considered to be a catastrophic impairment under Section 40 of the Statutory Accident Benefit Schedule. Because of my client's disability, he has back problems, pain problems, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, he has lost the sight in his right eye, and he has no depth perception. Now, the condominium where my client lives, which is called the Carlton Condominium Corporation, has made specific rules that all residents must adhere to. Specifically, Rules 68 and 69 are an issue for my client, in which we would like to grant an interim remedy. My client is unable to adhere to Rules 68 and 69 based on the fact that they state that all of the residents in the building must either carry their pets through the common areas to get outside, which includes the elevator, or they must transport them using a wagon or a cart. My client is unable to carry his 100-pound German Shepherd outside given his disability, and he is also unable to push his dog outside with a wagon or a cart. Now, the fact that his dog is 100 pounds and the cart is 40 pounds, this makes it 140 pounds, and his doctor has told him that he's unable to do this. This would aggravate his condition and make his disability much worse. The Condominium Corporation has been supplied doctor's notes by my client requesting that he be able to take his dog outside by using a leash instead of carrying him outside, and the condominium has denied this request several times, even though they have been supplied with doctor's notes asking that they do this. Now, the Condominium Corp does not suffer any undue hardship by granting my client his requests. There's no costs involved, therefore they would not be having to pay for anything extra, and there are no violations of the health and safety requirements by allowing my client to take his dog outside with a leash instead of carrying him. Because my client has no depth perception and has lost the sight in his right eye, he uses his dog to get around. He also uses his dog to be able to tell depth when he's walking, and he's not very good at this. When he tried to leave the Condominium Corp by pushing the wagon or cart and adhering to the rules, he actually pushed the cart into a wall and further injured himself and his dog. So this is not good, and because it does not create an undue hardship for the Condominium Corp, we ask that my client be granted an interim remedy until the trial at the Human Rights Tribunal. The respondent, the Condominium Corp, has shown no duty to accommodate, even though they do not suffer an undue hardship. They have not given any consideration to the thought, and they have simply denied all requests by my client. Now, in the case of DeSalvo versus Halto Condominium Corporation, it is very similar to ours because the applicant has a disability and is requesting certain things from the Condominium Corporation, and the Condominium Corporation is hesitant to grant this based on the fact that they would have to pay costs. The Carlton Condominium Corporation, which is where my client lives, would not have to pay any extra or little to no extra costs, which means that there is really no undue hardship on them to allow my client this privilege. Section 2, subsection 1 of the Human Rights Code states that every person has right to equal treatment with respect to occupancy of accommodation, which would be housing. My client has been denied this right to equal treatment based on his disability. Section 11.1 of the Human Rights Code is also brought up in the DeSalvo case, which is a lot like my case in respect to the fact that his right has been infringed based on a factor, aka Jason's dog Sunny, that isn't a ground for discrimination, but results in the restriction of a person, which is one of the 14 grounds of discrimination, which is disability. So those are two of the main issues that are brought up in the DeSalvo case that certainly apply to our case, and we ask that we be granted an interim remedy based on the fact that the dog is form of companionship for my client Jason George, and this helps him deal with his disability. It really does help him cope with the disability, and to have his dog as a companion and as a guide helps to deal with the depth perception and the loss of his right eye. It also helps him deal, like I said, with companionship, which is one of his issues with depression and the post-traumatic stress disorder. We ask that you grant us this interim remedy in await of the trial at the Human Rights Tribunal. Thank you very much.